Hello, my name is Helen Harris and I work as an expert relationship and marriage therapist, and what I'm going to be discussing with you today and sharing with you today on this video is some of the different things that can go on in a relationship that might create challenges, difficulties or lack of communication, and some of the ways that you can begin to discover a richer and more connected relationship. So first of all, what I'm going to do is share with you some of the things that I've noticed in my private practice and also from hundreds of people over the world. Some of the things that I believe that I constantly hear about that's going on in their relationships. So I'm trying to think of the main things that I want to discuss first of all, but I would say to begin with, there's something about people finding it difficult to communicate with one another, difficult to understand and listen and appreciate one another. And if you feel that this might be something that's going on in your relationship and you want to understand more about this and how this happens, what I believe that comes under the umbrella of communication is it's empathy. That's one way that we can begin to actively begin to empathize with what our partner's saying, how we listen to them, how we react to them, and how we emotionally respond to them in a relationship. The second thing that sits under the umbrella of communication is active listening. And as many of you, I'm sure, know that sometimes, when there's a power struggle within a relationship, and I'll come to that a little bit later on, what actually happens is both people want you to understand things from their point of view. And so where that kind of power struggle gets in which is when empathy isn't present, is that there might be a dispute or a discordance or an indifference from one another, and neither one will put down the hatchet, that's what I call it, and say, okay, I'm going to listen to you now. What is it that you're trying to convey to me? And I think something stops when we're able to do that, when we can truly hear what what our partner is saying to us, which I believe cuts down all the anger, all the rage, all the discordance, and brings the whole thing melting and thawing down. And that comes from when you see if this is what's going on in your relationship, if there is conflict, and if there is a lack of communication, or you believe that your communication is dysfunctional, one of the ways that you can deal with that is if you see your partner getting more and more temperatures going up, tone and the voice tone going up octave after octave, just, many of us are tempted to scream back and react at this. And I think this has something to do with the fact that it's not about reacting, it's about responding. So when your partner is beginning to go up a few octaves, or if you can feel the temperatures go up, or a sense of agitation, it's something about coming down in yourself. I know it's difficult, and just saying to your partner, what is it? I'm here. What is it that you want to say to me? Now, as I'm sure many of you know, that it's very easy for somebody to be trying to say something and we're going to listen, but at the same time as we're listening, we're not really listening, we're waiting for them to get it off their chest, and then we're going to because all we want to do is come in with our body language and our emotional cues and absolutely come in, and so you're not present with them. You're just hearing them but waiting to speak yourself, or working internally in your own dialogue about what you're going to say back. I say this is the reason I say this, on some level neither person at that moment is present. And so this, I'm beginning with this particular issue. One real helpful tip that I can give you, a useful suggestion here, is get a pebble, or maybe not a pebble, but something soft. It could be a cushion or something symbolic, so that when you're talking to your partner, or when you're in the middle of, you can feel the temperature or the atmosphere or the pressure rising. I mean, it's palpable sometimes, and I'm very aware of that. When I'm in a session myself, I can begin to feel where the temperatures are going up, and it's a matter of holding on to that object which symbolizes something that you're going to say. So something about the secure object, holding it, which tells your partner that you would like to say something. And the partner, whoever your partner is, whether it's a man or a woman, just listens attentively and listens underneath the surfaces of what you're trying to say, or what you are saying. You may wonder what I mean, but when I say underneath the surfaces, and I know that's very easy communicative language for a therapist to use, but you know, if we could all do this, it's about, as you know, somebody might be saying something, but then underneath what they're saying something something different. They're protesting against something. They're absolutely and utterly they're trying to convey something, and they need you to really be there with them, attentive, present, empathize, as if you know. And this is a really important point in relationships, especially whether it's a long-term relationship or a short-term relationship. But the mere fact that some time in the past, and it might be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 30 years or 20 years or whatever, you were attracted to one another. Something drew you to that person. It may have been across a crowded room. You may have met up in the workplace, wherever it was. It may have been online. But there was something that you really felt attracted to and drawn to in that person. And I suppose what I'm saying here is that that's what's lost when we get into a dysfunctional communication in a marriage, or when one partner or the other partner feels that the other is dismissive or disconnecting from them. So coming back to this exercise, that when you did feel your immediate attraction and chemistry, or whatever it was that drew you to your partner, as you would know that when two people first meet, we know we're different, we know we're separate, we know that that this person is doing something, and I feel this sense of excitement, euphoria. I feel attracted to this person. Everything feels more colourful. And yet, in those moments, if we were to go out and have a meal with that person, we are so listening to them. The empathy is up here. So the level of empathy and attentiveness. Why? Because love is a curiosity. It's a curiosity about this person that's made us feel suddenly at home, suddenly familiar. Suddenly we feel, even if we didn't feel it before, we feel alive. Yet we didn't know what was missing in our lives until we've met this one person that makes us feel connected and truly alive, if it went like that anyway. But my point is, in the beginning of a relationship, when we know that we're different, we know that we're separate, we know, the boundaries haven't been crossed, we are able to be with someone and really be so curious, as if love is a mystery, and we're able to, empathy would become so natural, mirroring becomes so natural, validation, what was that like for you, how did you feel about that? Well, two people are getting to know one another. And yet, ironically, in a relationship, I would say that the very thing that I'm talking about, if it isn't understood, or if we don't find some kind of tools and strategies and exercises to work with one another with this, it can lead to what I call, and I've written a few articles on this, I'll tell you about my website afterwards, but it can lead to living alone together, whereby two people are living and cohabiting under the same roof. They may have children, they may not. Many of them do, but whether you have children or not, the atmosphere is very distant, it feels dismissive, it feels that there's a sense of disregard in the family unit. Boredom can begin to set in, resentments can set in, because two people are living alone together. And when this begins to happen, the emotional attachment bond that first brought you together, that made that attachment emotionally responsive, is severed in some way. And so two people begin to kind of live as if they were living alone, but it's worse than that, because they're living alone in a kind of an isolation with the partner, which is even more difficult than living alone, because when we live alone, we only have ourselves to think about. One's emotionally self-reliant and finds other way. But when we're in a relationship, we begin to feel that that unless we're getting some kind of emotional response, we begin to kind of wither away. We stop taking care of ourselves, we stop going out with one another because there's nothing to talk about. We feel like the flame that once was there has burnt down. We feel emotionally distant. We talk to our friends if we've got any problems rather than sharing them with our partner. So we're getting further and further and further away. And that's because, as I said before, what sits under the umbrella of communication is empathy, mirroring, validation, active listening, and attentiveness, being really attentive with our partner. And I truly believe, and it seems, I know that this would appear like a miracle, that I've seen people that haven't had a conversation or been out for literally years, or if they have had a conversation, it's either dysfunctional, it's resentful, it's sniping, it's full of contempt on some levels. But when we actually listen to someone and appreciate what that person's saying and respond to that person, how did that make you feel? Or even if they're talking about something completely not to do with emotional feelings, it's about feeling an appreciation for someone, a respect for someone, because all of these things were quite naturally, authentically there in the beginning. But what comes first, that when we do respect our partner, when we do begin to feel heard and understood and listened to by our partner, it seems to dissolve a veil that sits between you like a third wall. And that is what's causing the distance between you. However much you might feel, well, the relationship's over, the light's gone out, the flame's gone, I'm no longer attracted to him or her, or I am attractive to him or her, but they don't understand me, they don't get me, they're not listening to me, all they want me to do is sit there and listen to them. Which is why I talk about who's going to go first. Do you want to be right, or do you want to save your relationship? I often say that, because in both people wanting to listen to one another at the same time, what I hear, and even, I can feel, the couples that I see notice going on, no, why should I go first? It was him or it was her that started this. I will change when he or she changes. And the other ones say, no, I'm not going to change until you change. So I'm saying that somewhere it's about, and I'm not asking you to wave the white flag, as I think that was a Dido song, but it is something about putting the hatchet down and just being very mindful and present. And even, and this is a really good thing to think about, and you can write this in your notebook, is what am I getting out of keep on maintaining this to get my needs met, or to be heard, or to be listened to? Where's it leading me? For some, it's been going on for years and years and years. So wouldn't it be good if all of a sudden, when you put that flag down and you're present and you go first. You just go first. It's about surrender. It's about vulnerability. It's about communicating your authenticity, and it's not about blame. So, vulnerability is probably the most courageous thing to do. It's about making ourselves accountable and standing up and saying, as long as it's me, as in, I'm feeling like this. Not when you do this to me, I do this, and you do this, because your partner is going to feel blamed, criticized, judged, pressured. He or she is going to feel like a wound up spring, and you've lost them because they feel, in many ways, it's a hard word, but that it's, they don't feel liked. That's a very simple way of putting it. Another way of putting it is, I don't mean literally under attack, but they feel attacked. And when somebody feels attacked, their immediate response is to go into fight and flight or freeze. And so you've lost them. And that is what's circulating and going around and around and around. So by making yourself vulnerable, and I know that this is about putting any defenses down, putting your protective shell down. I'm not so much asking that, but just to speak from your truth. Because what you've been doing up to now, if you're relating to what I'm saying, it's not working. And it could go on for another 20 years. And if you've got children, no matter what, even if you were separated or got a divorce, some level you still need, unless you've got a third party dropping the children off, just to even communicate with this person. Yeah? And it takes a lot of courage to do that. And so once I think we've got there and you both begin to communicate, it will end the power struggle. Because the power struggle is, I'm right, you're wrong. And then the other person, whoever's in, well, two people are in the power struggle, but one feels controlled, one feels dismissed, one feels that the other's got the power over the other one, and it's a battlefield. You see, the thing is, when we're in that power struggle, there's always one or both that feels that the other one has got control over the other, or one partner feels completely dismissed and becomes avoidant and far away and distant or silent. And of course, one other person, I haven't got to this yet, but might not be something for this video, the anxious person begins to feel rejected and abandonment and unable to get what they want. But in the end, what we're all really looking for is just one thing, and that is to be cared for, to be respected, to be loved, to be heard, to be listened to entirely and completely. And so there really is something about just allowing ourselves to be open to some kind of exchange that will penetrate through this steely silence that's gone on between you both, if that's what's going on in your relationship. And I really believe that when one does that, the other one feels as if they're thawing, as if they're being heard. But one has to go first, and then the other one will follow. And it is a miracle what can happen. And I believe if we can just get this far and also understand our different attachment styles, excuse me, because what can often happen is that in every relationship there's one anxious attachment style and one dismissive avoidant attachment style. And of course, the more the anxious one pursues and wants certainty and reliability and an emotional response, the more the avoidant one will become shut down, withdrawn, unavailable, far away. And that is the beginning of this kind of power struggle. But it seems impossible for either one to say or to think, do you know what, this might be happening because the way I'm approaching this relationship and the way I'm handling this conflict and dissonance between us and indifference, this might be the problem. And this is the beginning of feeling that you aren't living alone together, that you are actively building a mutually emotionally responsive attachment bond where you both feel both a sense of interdependency and dependency, but it's a healthy dependency. So you're both living your own autonomous lives and getting on with things and projects and interests that you enjoy, but what's building between you and what I'm trying to work towards with every relationship that a person, couple or individuals that come and see me is, how are we going to get there? And I believe that we can, and that when we feel that there's a healthy gap between you, so it's not engulfment, it's not pressure, it's not needy, it's not insecure, and then it doesn't cause the avoidant or dismissive one to move further away because they feel pressure, they feel trapped or confined and whatever, but it's a mutual healthy gap where not only desire can be re-experienced and redefined, but a healthy gap so that both of you can go off and enjoy your days or your projects or interests, knowing that at home or wherever you both are, even if you're living separately, you're coming together with mutual respect, appreciation, and connection, and that's the most important thing of all. All right, so I hope you got some useful information from my video today, and if you want to find out more about my work, my website address is www.helenmiaharris.com, and for more information on things like attachment styles, insecurity, abandonment, heartbreak and rejection, please go to www.freefromloveaddiction.com, whereby I've got a self-help program for codependency and rejection and love addiction. It's one program that's helped hundreds of people all over the world, and so I know that this particular message that I'm trying to get over in my recovery program, because it explains everything from every angle of rejection, heartbreak, abandonment and attachment styles. But anyway, and other than that, I've got many free ebooks, and you can also find them also on both of those website addresses. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I do hope that you find yourselves being able to reconnect with each other, because it makes such a difference to our lives when the bedrock of our life, which is our relationship, much of the time is going perfectly well, and that makes everything much brighter and better and inspiring to get on with our own work in life. All right? Okay, thank you for listening. Bye-bye.